in Ghana. This is the replay with me, James Ohinba on ABC News Ghana. This is we review everything that happened in the sporting weekend in the Ghana Premier League. Aduana Stars are on top of the Ghana Premier League after winning their game against Bekum Chelsea. House of Folk failed to win their respective games. And into the English Premier League, Liverpool lost to Nottingham Forest at home, whilst Manchester City also lost 2-1 to Newcastle at the St. James's Park. Arsenal, the Gunners, are still on top of the league log. They beat Spurs by 4-1. Then in La Liga, Barcelona are back to the Spotify Camp Nou. They won that game by 4-0, while Real Madrid also drew with Elche. Then in the Serie A, we saw the big derby, the Milan derby, where the two sides met. I have here with me Eugene Oforisoti. But before you hear from him, we go for a breather. When we come back, we'll delve deep into the highlights and into our analysis. Stay tuned. Welcome back from the breather. You're still watching the replay on ABC News Ghana with me, James Ohinba. Eugene Oforisoti is here to help us discuss the issues that happened over the weekend. Charlie, what's up?
I'm in the spirit.
What did they meditate over?
Yeah, something will happen tomorrow. I can't wait for tomorrow's big game, where we sit at home and face our noisy neighbors from Spain. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm in the
you
spirit.
will come to that. We will come to that. But let's move on to the Ghana Premier League, where there were some games that were played yesterday and also during the weekend. Now, talking about the Ghana Premier League, let's have the results on our screen, the weekend results so far. On Saturday, Karela United played their game. Also, Barca All Stars also played. So there you have it on our screen. This is the Sunday special. But on Saturday, Mediama Sporting Club drew 0-0 with Bechem United. Karela United beat Barca All Stars by 3-2. Then on Sunday, Dreams FC at the Legon Sports Stadium were beaten by Shedro Blast by 3-2. Then at Hoho United, it was 1-1, 11 wonders against Hoho United. Vision Football Club also drew 2-2 with Hearts of Lions. Aduana Football Clubs at home at the Nana Ajima in Bedu Park went on to beat Bekum Chelsea by 3-1. The Nations FC at home also beat BBN Gold Stars by 2-0. Young Apostles at the Wenchi Sports Stadium were able to hold on Accra Folk, where they drew 0-0. So that means 3 games on a bound. Accra Folk have not been able to win any game. Then the last game of the week, where FC Samatex also at the Century Sports Arena, they clashed with Kumasi Asante Kotoko. There was a lot of controversy about this particular game, a penalty being taken. But at the end of the day, the game ended 0-0. The GFA has also charged Asante Kotoko for not for putting up derogatory comments when it comes to how the game ended. Let me quickly go through the table of the Ghana Premier League, and then we'll come to the studio to speak to Eugene Oforisoti and take his thoughts on what really happened over the weekend in the Ghana Premier League. So looking at the table so far, Aduana Stars are on top of the league log. Aduana Stars are on top of the league log, where they have 23 points. Hearts of Lions are second with 22 points. Then Mediama Sporting Club are third with 22 points. Asante Kotoko, they have one outstanding game remaining, but they are fourth with 20 points. BBN Gold Stars are fifth with 19 points. House of Folk are sixth with 18 points. Then FC Samatex are seventh with 17 points. Karela United remain 8th with 16 points. Young Apostles are 9th with 15 points. Vision Football Club are 11th with 14 points. Nations Football Club are 11th with 13 points. Dreams FC are 12th with 11 points. Red All Blacks are 13th with 11 points. Hoho United 14th with 11 points. Bekum Chelsea are 15th with 11 points. Bechem United are 16th with 10 points. Barca Holy Stars are 17th with 6 points, while Techiman 11 Wonders 18 with 3 points. So that's how it ended. Let me come to the studio and let's pick the thoughts of Eugene Oforisoti. Soti, over the weekend, Ghana Premier League Hearts of Oak failed to win, Asante Kotoko failed to win, Aduana Stars won. They are back on top of the league log. Mediema losing against Bechem United. Also, that means that they also got from the top spot and they are currently somewhere around third or fourth. Generally, what's your general assessment about the weekend when it comes to GPO?
Yeah, for me, Hearts of Oak lost a chance to sort of build up the points and ensure that they are away from Kotoko. Remember that Kotoko have one more game outstanding, so if Hearts and Kotoko are almost pegged around the same points on the table, then it doesn't bode well for Hearts of Oak. So I think they missed an opportunity. So I think they've gone 3 games without a win.
Yeah.
I mean, since the Kotoko the Hearts Kotoko game, Hearts have not won any game, and it's not good enough for them, and they need to bounce back to winning ways. And for me, for Kotoko, I knew it was going to be very difficult for them to go to Samatex and get the necessary points. I'm also happy for Nations FC. They have not been very impressive this season, even though last season they nearly won the league. Things have not gone particularly well for them this season. So winning at home against BBN Eagle Stars for me is big. And then also Suede Real Blacks. Their game here at the Legon Sports Stadium, good game from them as well. That's good for them. And for 11 Wonders and the others, that's the usual news from them. We hear Coach Jay Sapon has also resigned, and so generally it's been a week where most of the results were predictable, except Hearts of Oak. At least there should have been a goal in that game, and so for Kudidi Dramani, he needs to up his game and make sure that they get back to winning. In clubs like Kotoko and Hearts of Oak, certain results are unpardonable. Failing to win at certain venues, if it happens a few more times, fans will not be patient with you anymore. They'll start calling for your head. I think the fans have been very patient with Didi Ramani. I think he's one of those coaches who has enjoyed a lot of goodwill from the fans for a while now. Because of his, he gives me a Marcelo Bielsa vibes. They look more of football teachers, football educators. So they get respect for their approach to the game and their ability to imbibe their philosophy into people. And it's quite enviable the work he has done. But in a club like Hearts of Oak, it's a result-oriented club, a club based on history and pedigree, and results and victories maintain that history and pedigree. So I think it's something that Coach Didi Dramani will need to look at. Apart from that, it's been a week where things have gone as planned, and also happy for Aduana Stars after the kind of week they had with their draw at Kotoko last week, and then their fans dying. A victory was good enough for them to sort of appease their fans and at least in memory of those fans who lost their lives supporting those fans. I think good performance from Aduana Stars.
Good performance from Aduana Stars, says Eugene Oforisote. So that's how we end the Ghana Premier League review. Remember, this coming weekend there will be more games to be played. Mediema will play against Asante Kotoko. There are also some interesting games that will need to be played. But let's move on to the English Premier League, where a lot of things and interesting things happened in the EPL. First of all, let's start from that game between Chelsea and Burnley at Stamford Bridge, where Chelsea won by 2-0 in the early kickoff. Chelsea cruising to a 2-0 win, while City, Pep Guardiola's men, suffered at the hands of Newcastle at St. James's Park. An interesting results. The game ended 2-1. Let me come to Soty and have his thoughts on that particular game. First of all, let's talk about the Chelsea game. And I see you smiling whenever I mention Chelsea. I don't know why you are smiling, but your general assessment about the game: Enzo Fernandez, Pedro Neto scoring for Chelsea.
Honestly, it's not performance to smile about, but it's good that from the international break Chelsea won, and it's good that I think in the last 7 early kickoff games on Saturdays, Chelsea has won all. That's good. But if you look at the performance on the day, it's not impressive at all. And this result is one of those games where the result doesn't tell the perfect story. So before Chelsea scored the first goal, Burnley actually dominated the game. I remember watching the game where the commentators were saying, with the greatest respect to Burnley, they expected Burnley to rather be defending. Just after he said that, now Burnley started attacking and Chelsea rather were doing the opposite of what was expected of them, to rather attack. And that was quite problematic for a team that was going into a series of big games heading from Tuesday onwards I thought it wasn't good enough. And for a team that prides itself as one of the most expensive squads in the world, that has almost $1 billion squad, if a few players are missing and you've got worthy replacement, it was almost telling on the field that the team lacked quality. And I think a team that people said it had squad depth, I didn't see the depth on the day. Burnley actually matched Chelsea boot for boot. They just were not good enough in the final third. And then Chelsea, on the counter-attacking situation, rather took advantage of that situation. And then just after the goal, Chelsea dominated for a while, but after the break, Burnley once again came into the picture. Just that there weren't any clear catches from them. Now, getting to the dying embers of the game, Burnley came into the game again. And that was a point where Enzo Maresca was tricked into making a substitution and bringing William Estevao into the pitch. But just when he was about bringing him, and then there was a goal, so he decided to bench him. So it means that the approach to the game was very clear that he would rest as many key players as possible for the Tuesday and the next Tuesday and Saturday's game, and try with a manageable squad, try and steal the victory. And I think he achieved that. But it wasn't a pretty game from Chelsea. And it tells us that, teams they speak about squad depth and $1 billion squad, but what we saw on Saturday against Burnley, there's much more work Enzo Maresca and his backroom staff have to do in order to build up the quality in the team.
Are Chelsea title contenders?
No.
Why?
No, you see, one thing I'm always honest to say is the Club World Cup victory fooled a lot of Chelsea fans into believing that Chelsea was good enough.
What's the real situation for
you? See, the real situation is I don't think that Chelsea is title contenders, because every title contending team, they have a very good spine. So they have one thing I realize about title winning teams is they have very good goalkeepers. In games where the defense fails, the midfield fails, the goalkeepers pull good saves. City have Alisson Becker, Donnarumma, Man City have a Donnarumma, Real Madrid have a Thibaut Courtois. But for Chelsea, Rob Sanchez, with the greatest respect to him, isn't a goalkeeper who is very consistent and very dependable, a world-class goalkeeper as such. Also, when you look at our backline, very inconsistent players. I don't see any world-class defender in our midst. With the greatest respect to them, they are very average players who at best should be around Fulham, Crystal Palace level. Yeah. Tosin Adarabioyo, for example, he's very suspect when he's in a 1v1 situation with a striker. A lot of the goals Chelsea have conceded have got to do with him, because he's not good enough when we play in a two-back system. So I think, up front, from our midfield to our forward, I think we don't have a problem. But our centre-back and our goalkeeper is where the challenge is. And I think those will prove the difference in certain big games. For title-winning teams, we need to prove a lot. We are very inconsistent. Today, Fofana is playing. Tomorrow, Tosin is playing. Another day is Achampong playing. The next time it's Chaloba. So we don't even have our dominant two. We play consistently in every game. We seem to be changing players, and that's not helping us. So I think title-winning team, we don't. Because Chelsea traditionally, to see a title-winning team is the December games, where we play 3 games in a row. Yeah, and I think there are certain games that determine whether you're a title-winning team. And I don't think so far we've done so well.
It's not done so, but
Crystal Palace
are currently second.
Yeah, it just tells about this season where almost every team is struggling at a point. Chelsea also struggled at a point, failed to win some 3 games. Now Chelsea seems to have stabilized a bit. And for me, certain games, failing to beat Crystal Palace at home was one example. Failing to win in the Champions League, even though it's a different tournament, away also was also for me a sign that we are not where we are. There are certain games when you win, we know you've delivered a statement of intent. For example, when we play against Arsenal on Saturday, if you're able to win that game, we showed something. We failed to beat Manchester United. That for me shows that clearly we are not up to that level. If we want to win the title, we've got to beat City, we've got to beat Arsenal, and beat Manchester United, and then we show that we have the desire to win.
We saw the highlights between Newcastle and Manchester City. Tell me, when we did the replay, we did mention that St. James Park is a difficult ground to play at. Sorry, when we did the build-up on Friday, St. James Park we said that St. James Park was a difficult ground to play at. And I even predicted that City might struggle because they are playing away. And City, so far in the competition, have not been consistent whenever they go on the road. And we saw it pan out. Newcastle winning by 2-1. What do you think is the problem of Man City?
Honestly, I don't think it's a problem of Man City. It's just a thing with Newcastle.
Okay.
Because Newcastle themselves seem to be struggling this season. So I think the modus operandi of Newcastle is that I think that's their problem. When they approach teams like Brentford, Brighton, Sunderland,
teams of their level,
they seem to struggle. But when they meet teams like Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, City, then they play above their level. And I think for the big teams, it's very difficult to go to St. James's Park and even get a win. I remember last season, Liverpool struggled to get a win, even though they ended up winning the game, but if they struggled, they had to labor for it. It's very difficult. I think it's something with that stadium, the way the fans chant, they create an intimidating environment for the players. And then tactically, they are very disciplined, and they huge respect to Eddie Howe. He got his first win against Guardiola in the Premier League. With Newcastle after being with the club for 4 years. And I like the way they are very energetic. They play as a unit. When they are defending, even Votemada comes very deep to defend. When they are attacking as a unit, almost every player goes up. And then I like the fact that they fight for themselves. When Joelinton loses the ball, Tonali makes sure that he covers up for him and try and still recover the ball. I think that's what is missing in the City team. I also think at the point they are struggling for stability. Okay. Except Erling Haaland and maybe FL Foden, they are also changing players. Today is Ryan Cherki. Now Umar Mamouche is struggling for game time. So then today Jeremy Doku starts well. He has a good game. The next game,
I think that has been consistent with Guardiola. He likes to rotate his team regardless of whether they are winning or losing.
And that's going to be the problem. And I think generally for them, they are losing. They are lacking in confidence. And I think the thing with them is they don't press and recover for themselves the way the Newcastle players do. Okay. And I think the whole general game plan of Newcastle was to defend resolutely and then catch City on the break. Clearly with their first goal, and then and huge respect to Harvey Barnes for his composure in the two games.
He's a good player.
Harvey Barnes is one
a good player.
Is one of the players I highly regard. Unfortunately for him, it hasn't yielded fruits for him internationally. He has not got a chance to represent England, and we are hearing at the point he's possibly looking at switching nationality to Scotland in that to get an opportunity at next year's World Cup. But huge respect to him. I think it's one of those players who has an ability few players have. He's able to play the ball with both feet. So it's most like those people like Dembele, Kylian Mbappe. So they don't have a weak foot. Whichever position he is,
works for them.
He works for. He's able to shoot. And he's got good pace, he's got good shooting ability. He's able to press the ball as well, and he's always switched on. That's one thing I like about Harvey Barnes. And he's always good for a counter-attacking team. And so kudos to him. He fought some few injuries. He seems to be back in the team and he's doing well. If things continue the way they are, I expect Newcastle to do very well heading into the rest of the season, especially the December run.
All right, so that's it for the Newcastle game and also the Chelsea-Burnley game. But let's move on to other games that were played in the English Premier League. And at Anfield, Nottingham Forest went there to beat Liverpool by 3-0. It was back-to-back win at Anfield. Then from there, we will look at the Arsenal-Spurs game at the Emirates, where Arsenal won 4-0. Eberechi Eze scoring in. Eze has become the first player in the Premier League era to score a hat-trick in the North London derby. The last time such of a thing happened was in 1978. So Arsenal are still on top of the league log. They meet Chelsea in the upcoming weekend. We'll see how that particular game will pan out. But let's have a review of that game. But first of all, let's start from the Liverpool game. Liverpool slot is still in the fire at home, losing against Nottingham Forest. A fixture they lost last season at home too. First of all, let's talk about Nottingham Forest. What are they doing right? Then we come back to Liverpool.
Nottingham Forest, I don't think they too are also struggling. Yeah, but just that when they meet the big teams, I think they fall in the Newcastle category. Against the big teams, they know how to set up their team very well. I think those things don't work against the smaller teams because they also set up the way you set up. So it makes things quite difficult. difficult for them because I think they've struggled. They've changed coaches. Ange took over. It didn't work out, and they are on their third coach of the season. So I think it's not a case of maybe what worked for them, but one, Liverpool themselves seem to be struggling with. First of all, I think it's initially it was complacency from the latter part of last season. Once it was very clear they had won the league, they seem to have ended the things on, and then their mind was to close shop and then start this season. But it looks like the hangover from last season's parties is still there. Then it has resulted in a loss of confidence because generally I don't think the players are bad, but things. Sometimes I think there's something about life. Sometimes when things are going wrong, everything continues to go wrong and it goes even worse. For example, over the last 2-3 games, Liverpool have hit the post a lot of times. If those balls had entered the net, maybe the situation would have changed.
And even at the beginning of the season, they were winning games in the 90th
exactly, and that was very unsustainable. We all knew at the point that will come haunting them. And well, in certain seasons where Liverpool won the league, this is how they actually played. They were winning 90 plus. I think generally it's a loss of confidence, especially in midfield and in defense. Because the midfield and defense are what hold the team together, and it's really a daunting task for them. Because remember, Hugo Ekitike came to the team. He's been scoring goals almost week in week out. It's just been a few games he's not scored, but generally the team has been off. Even when he scores, they concede. So I think it's a thing with and one, it's a reverse Uno. That Liverpool, a team that scores a lot of set pieces goals. Now we're considering from a lot of set pieces situations. And kudos to Nottingham Forest. I remember I predicted this on the build-up on Friday that but I even thought it would be just a 1-0 victory, but as much as 3 goals. And I think I'm happy that it wasn't Giorgio Mamada's really imposed, because if he was imposed, there were a lot of backlash that he wasn't good enough. And now it's good was Alisson in the post and they considered those goals, so that the pressure is not on him. I think that there's a lack of coordination between the midfield and the defense, so it has left them exposed, and the team currently seems disjointed. I hear Arne Slot apologizing that it was his tactics that led the team down. But I think generally they are trying, because I watched the game, even when they were down, Szoboszlai was trying in shots. Every player just kept on trying as much as possible to get the job done. It wasn't possible. Maybe at the point we need to talk about the fluidity of the team in general. And I think generally it happens when all things are going wrong, because when the results are not good. Because now Salah, for example, clearly almost non-existent in the game on Saturday, and the other forward players were really had nothing to show for themselves in that game. And I think it's just a disjointed team that will just have to. I think for now they should first focus on avoiding defeat. They should first focus on avoiding defeat. Sure. Once they are able to go a few games without avoiding defeat, then they could now continue and focus on winning games. Once they start winning a few games, then confidence is restored.
All right, so let's do that Arsenal Spurs game. Arsenal went on to beat Spurs by 4-0. Earlier on, I said during the build-up that if you look at the last 6 games, especially that they are playing at the Emirates, it wasn't going to be an issue for them. But let's go for a breather. When we come back, we'll delve deep into that particular game and also look and move straight to the La Liga. Welcome back from the break. I'm still watching the replay on ABC News Ghana. Before we went on the break, we were talking about the Arsenal and Spurs game. Soti was raising an important point. I'd like him to continue.
I wasn't making any point.
You're making a point that Arsenal did well, or that's not what you're saying?
No, I never said that.
I've confused you, but you can't start.
But first of all, I must put on record that Tottenham Hotspur is a disappointment.
Why?
We expected a spirited display, spirited performance, a fighting spirit from them, resolute defense. It was a disappointing performance.
But you don't give credit to us now.
No, I'm coming. I'll get there. It's a very disappointing performance from Arsenal, and I think for now we need to have a proper conversation about Thomas Frank and his performance after a few games. After this match week 11, right?
Yeah.
So it's good enough to start reviewing the performances. They faced Chelsea, they failed to win. They faced Arsenal, they failed to win. That's two of their London rivals they've met already. We have to look at the other performances as well, and it's been a performance which overall is not satisfactory at all. Because if you look at the kind of players Spurs has, I don't think Spurs should be outside of the top 10. I think Spurs should be competing for top 4.
Yeah, they are part of the top 6. They are part of the top 6.
I think Spurs should be in the top 3. I think even if you look at their players, I think that their players even have more Premier League experience than some of these Chelsea players. Richarlison has been in the league for so long. Solanke has been in the league for so long. Kudus, at least for the last 3 years, has been in the league for so long. I think even Kudus has more Premier League experience than Kopama, if you ask me. Because even Kopama was in the league before him. Kopama had played barely 10 games before Kudus had been in the league. Madison has been in the league for like the last 10 years.
Yeah, he's injured.
But I think generally they have a very experienced team. Good players, but for whatever reason, things don't just work out for them. I don't know if there is a curse in that building, because once the players get it, things just don't work for them. And maybe Thomas Frank also comes from a team where sometimes they go 7 games without a victory. So maybe
it's normal for him.
Yeah, and maybe I think at Spurs the pressure has not gotten to him yet. At the point the fans will start calling for his sacking. Maybe now they are dormant and quiet. He's on his honeymoon, and very soon the harsh realities will dawn on him. But speaking about Arsenal, I think honestly kudos to them. Sometimes when I look at Arsenal 5 years ago and I look at Arsenal today, I see there's a marked improvement. Yeah. Those days, when there was an Arsenal Spurs game, the conversation was about, okay, well, it would be a slender margin. When there was an Arsenal City game, how many goals would City beat? City beat Arsenal with? But these days, Arsenal go into games and the conversation is about usually how Arsenal win, or usually how many goals will Arsenal win. You see, so I think that now they kudos to Mikel Arteta. He's really transformed the squad, and that's one thing I'll always credit him for. At least the Kroenke family, who called for patience when the fans were calling for his head, I think at this point they've been justified with where Arteta has taken them to. I think for this time, the only thing his focus is on, his attention on, is winning a trophy, not necessarily winning the Premier League. I think that has been his challenge. For example, for Spurs, the focus was on winning a trophy, and look at where it landed them. They ended up winning the Europa League, and Arsenal for the longest time have rather chased the big things and ended up with nothing. They've chased the Premier League, they've not gotten it. They've chased the Champions League, they've lost it. Spurs were realistic, chasing Carabao, the FA Cup, and
Arteta has won the FA Cup in his
first year. How long was that? I'm sure that time you were in university. You've graduated and you are working. It's been ages. If a child was born in that time, the child will be in class 1 or class 2. But that's been a very long time. And so I think Arteta should focus on just winning a trophy, not focus, not focus attention primarily on the Premier League. You see, once you win a trophy, it means that you get the winning mentality. So you see Chelsea focused on winning the Conference League. And then they focused on winning.
You just found yourself.
No, I'm not.
It wasn't like.
I'm just saying. And then once they won it, confidence came. And once they've won the Club World Cup, confidence has come. Chelsea is not necessarily a good team, but because they've managed to win trophies, now the confidence and belief is there, heading to big games that we can win it. So I think they need to win a trophy first, and then the Premier League will come. And I think once Arsenal wins the Premier League, it's the beginning of the establishment of a dynasty as well. Like what Zidane did with Madrid in the Champions League for 3 seasons, and what Pep also did with City. I think Arteta can also do it once he wins a trophy. And once he does that with the squad he has now, is unplayable.
All right, so that's what Eugene Suti thinks about Arsenal beating Spurs, and he thinks that they should at least focus on winning a trophy in the upcoming season. There were other games that were played in the English Premier League. Let me quickly take through the results. Bournemouth drew 2-2 with West Ham. Brighton and Hove Albion beat Brentford by 2-1. Fulham also beat Sunderland by just a goal at Craven Cottage. Liverpool Football Club, we've already mentioned that they lost to Nottingham Forest by 3-0. Wolverhampton Wanderers at home lost to Crystal Palace. It looks like maybe Wolves will go on relegation because
it's not looking good for them at all. I actually predicted that at least they'll score a goal.
It's not going well for them, even with their new manager coming in. But things are still not going on. Leeds United at home lost to Aston Villa by 2-1. Then Manchester United and Everton will be playing this evening at Old Trafford. It's the mid-table derby between Manchester United
and on record, I predict an Everton 2-0 win.
An Everton 2-0
win. I think Iliman India will have a goal and maybe a header from either Beto, the striker, or Michael Keane.
Manchester United fans wouldn't be happy with you. But let's move on to the Spanish La Liga. The Spanish La Liga, yes, a lot of interesting things happened over the weekend. FC Barcelona thumped Atletico Bilbao in their new renovated Spotify Camp Nou. Then Real Madrid also drew 2-2 with Elche. This is the second time in a row that Madrid have failed to win again. Remember, last week they drew with Rayo Vallecano, whilst this week they also drew with Elche. So Jude Bellingham picking up a point for Real Madrid in their game against Elche. In the let me bring in Eugenio Forisoti. FC Barcelona back to the Spotify Camp Nou, winning by 4 goals against Atletico Bilbao. A lot of people think, including me, thought that at least Bilbao will give them a bit of a competition. I knew Barca would win, but I didn't think that they would win by such a margin. Were you also thinking so?
Yes, and honestly, I think Bilbao flattered to deceive us. We thought we expected a game where we see two teams that will attack and be switched on and give us a very competitive and keenly contested game. But I think that Ernesto Valverde and his men didn't deliver even 50% of the expectation. And this was lackluster defending from the players. I mean, what were they doing? I honestly, this is not
Bilbao.
No, this is not a Bilbao. No. Unai Simon, 2 of the goals were goals, especially Lewandowski's goal. The first goal he scored, and then I think one of Ferran Torres' goal. I think his second goal, I think which should have been Barca's third. Those were goals he could have easily.
I don't know whether we can have those goals on our screen. The first and second goal. Let's look at.
Yeah. So Lewandowski's first goal he scored, I think he took it to the first post, and which was easily where Unai Simon was. Yeah. So I think let's have a look at this. So he steals the ball, and then so Lewandowski. Guess what? Lewandowski now goes wide.
Very wide.
So look where Lewandowski was. No. So if you could go back a little, for the very first goal.
So I think that pass from the Bilbao player was first of all very bad.
Yeah, very poor pass. Yes.
Then Lewandowski goes very wide. Once he goes very wide, I think that the scoring angle becomes very difficult for him.
Exactly. Because first of all, Lewandowski was in the middle. Now he decides to move wide. So I thought by moving wide now, his chances of scoring have rather reduced. So I thought that maybe Unai Simon would rather get a very good save. But it looked like he made a feeble attempt of saving the ball, and then he was beaten. So this is it here. So watch where Lewandowski is. He's in the middle, then decides to go rather out wide. So that should rather make his work difficult.
And I'm even surprised that he got to the ball first.
Exactly. And usually in such situations, when they go out wide, they go towards the opposite end of where they were rather. That should have been rather a difficult one for Unai Simon. But rather where Unai Simon was his first post, and he failed to save it. That was problematic for me. And I think Ferran Torres' second goal also, he made a feeble attempt, and then they scored. And also the defenders as well, problematic. So I think if not for their defensive errors and the failure of Unai Simon to make very simple saves, I think they should have lost by a goal to nil. So I think kudos to Barca for getting a win at Camp Nou to mark their return to their old stadium. But I think it's not been impressive from Ernesto Valverde and his men. I think they need to back it up with impressive performances later on in the Champions League and then later on in midweek. But I don't think they did themselves good anyhow. And I expect that the Barcelona's next opponents we should give them a tough run. And looking at how Barcelona exploited this Bilbao defense, I think Barca's next opponents should know what Barca can do on a good day and should try and stop them. Particularly players like Lamine Yamal, good performance from him, returning from the so-called injury, and his key passes proved important for Ferran Torres in his goals, and generally his output in the game was felt, and hopefully we see him provide those magic in the rest of the games in La Liga.
All right, let's talk about Madrid. What's wrong with Xabi Alonso and his men? Because last week against Rayo Vallecano, it should have been a walk in the park for them. Again, they are meeting another lower side. They met Elche, a lot of people predicted a win for them, but it looks like in these two games that everyone is expecting that at least they win. They didn't lose, but then again they dropped points. They picked up just 2 out of 6 maximum points. And when we were about to start the show, we were reading about Vinicius Jr. having some issues with Xabi Alonso and not wanting to extend his contract and everything. What is really happening to Madrid?
First off, kudos to Elche. I think a lot of analysts didn't believe that or didn't give Elche a dog's chance. But I think if you even watch the highlights, I think that if Elche had a very good defense, they should have won the game comfortably. Because their goals were well-worked goals. These were not gifts. They actually tried and worked well. I like especially the second goal. I like the way that the attacker took Raul Asensio to the cleaners, faked him almost for Raul Asensio to do almost a 360. He didn't know his whereabouts, and before he turned to face his attacker, the ball was at the back of the net. I think this was a game where they really tested Thibaut Courtois. I think the only thing that was the undoing for Elche was the fact that their defense could not hold it. They couldn't hold it on their own, and that's how come Madrid even had was able to sniff a goal. Otherwise, I think it was a poor performance for Madrid. And for Madrid, I don't know if it's a thing about the tactics. You see, for Vinicius, I don't think his argument even holds at this point because he seems to have lost confidence. And so I don't think he even has a strong bargaining chip for signing of a contract now. And I think for Vinicius, I also understand where he's coming from.
Okay.
Because before Xabi Alonso came into the team, he already started talking in the media about the fact that no player should be comfortable. No player had a start.
Was he wrong?
You know, there are certain things you don't see.
No, he wasn't wrong.
No, sometimes in life there's the obvious thing.
Or because he's Xabi Alonso, he's an upcoming coach, so he should just...
No.
Because if this was to be a Carlo Ancelotti or Pep, we wouldn't have...
There's a reason why Carlo Ancelotti is loved by his players.
Okay.
There are certain things he knows is the obvious fact, but he will never say it. His actions will tell you what he thinks.
But even for Carlo Ancelotti, there was a time it was Rodrigo and Vinicius playing. When Mbappe came, everything changed. Rodrigo was on the bench.
And what during that period, what did Carlo Ancelotti ever say? He never really gave any explanation.
But according to insiders, Rodrigo was doing even better than Vinicius.
Exactly.
But he was starting Vinicius.
Exactly. But you see, when you also talk about certain things, you know, I think one thing about players is they don't like to hear things in the media. I think that's one thing that pisses them off. I think for them is mano a mano. Tell them to their face and let it make sense to them. And then for players, you can never satisfy players anyway. I think one thing they generally don't like is to hear things in the media, especially when you are somebody in close proximity to them and you could easily deliver that message in their face. And especially when you are not really started monitoring training sessions and you're already giving your verdict on the fact that nobody was going to have a starting bet to the team. It looked as if for Xabi Alonso, he had preconceived ideas about certain people in the team, and I'm sure he had read issues to Vinicius' past utterances and behaviors. I'm sure he's not too much a fan of Vinicius. I'm not too much of a fan of Vinicius because of his antics. See, you are a footballer, play the ball. Just play the ball. Sometimes he does too much whining opponent fans. Yeah, because even Tony Cruz spoke about it recently.
In the game against Vallecano, for example, there was a chance Vinicius had the opportunity to pass the ball to one of his teammates for them to create an opening for them.
He held on to the ball.
He held on to the ball, trying to dribble through. Typically of Vinicius, that's what he would do. But if you look at what was happening at the bench, Alonso wasn't so happy at that.
I'm sure that the result as well
led to them conceding one of the goals in that particular game.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes the tactics of the coach, we know you are naturally gifted, but the coach says when you get to this part of the pitch, just pass to your opponents. Don't try to dribble your way through.
You know, sometimes for players, I think even last week, when Scotland were playing against Denmark, just when the match was about ending, the Scotland coach was giving an instruction to his player to hold on to the ball and take the ball to the corner flag. Now the player decided to disobey the coach. When he initially played the ball, the coach was unhappy, but when the coach turned, he realized the ball was heading toward the net. You see, so usually when you disobey the coach, just pray that your disobedience leads to something positive. Yeah. Otherwise, when it backfires, it doesn't look good, and it looks like you are a recalcitrant player. And for Vinicius, even on his big days, when he was in his element at the top of at the top of his game, and among the best 3 players in the world, he seemed to always be winding up even his own players sometimes. Tony Kroos spoke about it recently, that even sometimes he got pissed off, and he believed that even sometimes the referees took decisions against Madrid because of Vinicius' behavior. And so I think, it looks as if the 2 parties have taken entrenched positions. And usually when you are going to conflict resolution and 2 parties take entrenched positions, it doesn't help. Because one has to, we need to see the 2 parties almost in the process of mediation make some concessions and try and calm things down before we can do these things. And usually it doesn't help the players, because usually the coaches are the ones who have the power. And I think at this point, Xabi Alonso can decide to even bench Vinicius and decide to play Rodrigo Goes, and I don't think Vinicius has any cause to complain. So I think this is something they need to sort out. But I think tactically they have to also look at a few things. Sometimes the focus on scoring too much also leaves them exposed.
So the balance in
exactly. But I think also it just happens with these smaller teams. Their pitches are smaller. They play more as a unit. There's less expectation of them. And usually, sometimes underdogs try and prove a lot more. You watch what Elche will do next week. They'll concede a lot of goals.
We'll be here to discuss them next week, but remember the other games that were played in the Spanish La Liga. Let me take you through the results of those particular games. And on Friday, Valencia played against Levante, where they won 1-0 against Levante. Deportivo Alaves sat home and they were beaten by Celta de Vigo by just a goal. We've already mentioned that Barcelona won 4-0 against Bilbao. Then Osasuna lost at home, where Real Sociedad scored them by 3-1. Villarreal went on to beat RCD Mallorca at home by 2-1. Rayo Vallecano and Rayo Vallecano drew that game 0-0. Real Betis, Girona, it was 1-1. Getafe, interestingly, also at home, lost to Atletico Madrid. Elche drew 2-2 with Real Madrid, and Espanyol and Sevilla will play today. So there is a game in the Spanish La Liga today.
Celta Vigo won?
Yeah, Celta Vigo beat Deportivo Alaves.
Well, it was good to see Joseph Edu back in action as well. He suffered with injuries for a while, so it's good that he's back in the stead, and hopefully in a few games.
I really didn't see Kwesi Sibo for Real Madrid.
That's a competition for another day, but it's good to see Edu back, and hopefully he gets one more shot with the Black Stars. He seems to have been very unlucky with the national team.
So hopefully, let's see whether as the World Cup approaches, Joseph Edu will get a place in the World Cup squad for Ghana. But looking at the league table, Madrid are still on top, despite the fact that they lost some points. They are on top with 32 points, with just a point separating them and Barcelona. Barcelona are second with 31 points. Villarreal are third. Atletico Madrid are fourth. And down in the table, there's Real Oviedo. Now from the Spanish La Liga, let's head to Italy, the Serie A. The biggest game of the weekend in that particular league was between Inter Milan and AC Milan. Christian Pulisic gave AC the winner in that particular game. Christian Pulisic scoring for AC Milan against Inter Milan. Soti, your thoughts on that particular game?
I think when I watched the game initially, AC Milan looked very jittery. They looked like they were very cautious. I think Massimiliano Allegri approached the game with a bit of caution. I think he decided that first of all, it was very important for them not to concede. So even when they went forward, I think they were very careful, such that even as the 10-man players were moving, at least some 3 players should always retreat. So in case of a counter-attack situation, and I think they were very much cautious of a counter-attacking situation breaking from Inter, knowing how with players like Marcos Thuram and Hakan Çalhanoğlu and Esposito and their skipper Lautaro Martinez, they could hurt them. So they were very much cautious in that game, and that was very much appreciated from Allegri. I think for Inter Milan, they were very much confident of a win, and so they almost threw caution to the wind. Then they were exposed certain situations. I think AC had a lot of chances. I remember Yusuf Fofana had a chance, he blasted. A few players had a few chances, which if AC Milan had expected converted, this should have been a 2 or 3-0 victory for them. And kudos to Christian Pulisic. He too has also fought off some few injuries this season. Inconsistency has been a problem with AC Milan. And the fact that AC is not playing in Europe is an added advantage for them. So they come into every game fresh. Remember, that's how come Napoli won the Scudetto last season. They were not playing in Europe. So they played almost every week. And so whilst AC, Inter and Co were struggling, they were in a good run of form. So I think that's what will help AC Milan to try and win the Scudetto and return to Europe next season. Because for a big club with their finances and stuff like that, it's almost an atrocity for them not to qualify. So kudos to them as they edge closer to the top of the table and then trying to win the league. It'll be good for Allegri, come back to coaching and then winning the Scudetto. Good for them. Napoli also not giving it a dog's chance. They beat Atalanta also as well. So the race is heating up, but for Inter Milan, they've got to watch it. Sometimes the overconfidence is what it doesn't work for them. And I think Jan Sommer in the goal, the shot was played and he parried it. So I'm not too sure. In these situations, it happened to with House of Folk also. I think when Asari was off for the international break, sometimes you are not sure if it's the goalkeeper's fault in maybe not expecting the shot at that time and the way he parried the ball, or is the fact that the defenders were not switched on to clear because the goalkeeper pointed the ball, but the opponent's player was first to the ball. So those things also are things Inter's defense and the goalkeeper need to look at. But all in all, I think classic of this derbies is not victory. You don't see victory is very high match. It's usually a 1 or 2-0 victory. It's good for AC Milan they were able to steal the victory and then get on to winning ways.
All right, so let's look at how the table is looking like in the Serie A. Roma on top of the league log with 27 points. AC Milan are second with 25 points. Napoli are third with 25 points. Inter Milan are in the fourth position with 24 points. If you go down beneath the league table, we have Verona with 6 points. Fiorentina also has 6 points, while Genoa also has 6 points. So that's how the Italian Serie A ended. But before we end the show, let's do a quick review of the UEFA Champions League games that comes off this particular week. Tomorrow, it is Chelsea versus FC Barcelona, a fixture that a lot of fans have been salivating about whilst the fixtures came out. Then on Wednesday, Arsenal play against Bayern Munich. But first of all, let's talk about that particular game, Chelsea FC Barcelona. I see you smiling somewhere in there. What are you? What's going through your head? Are you afraid of losing, or you think Barca will do the unthinkable against you?
No, you said two things which mean the same thing.
I know.
Are you trying to confuse me?
I know
First
what I said.
I'm not afraid of anything. And for a club that is the best team in the world, I'm not too sure about your line of questioning. And I'm not too sure about your
don't analyze the game like a Chelsea fan. Analyze it as a pundit.
So first of all,
Chelsea Barcelona game, looking at the forms of these two teams, looking at their players, looking at their tactics, looking at their history, what do you think will happen in the game? Don't talk as if you are Enzo Maresca. Say the truth and let's go for it.
You see that okay. For people who have some legal bag, I don't know what is truth to you and what is fact to you.
Based on the parameters I give, the metrics I give, analyze the game.
If you're talking about parameters, then I'm not sure you should be confident in the Barcelona win. Because I don't think...
I'm not confident of a Barcelona. It's a question I just asked.
So Barcelona, I don't think they've won at the Stamford Bridge before.
That's a fact.
And even with Lionel Messi, they failed to win in 2018. I think that one, I remember Williams scored the first goal and then Messi scored the equalizer. It ended 1-0. So without Messi, I think it makes the conversation a very different conversation. And I think that for Chelsea, they would have to win because they failed to win their previous game in the Champions League away. And I think for them, it's very crucial for them to come back to winning ways because they need to consolidate their wins such that they enter into the top 8 and then qualify automatically. Also for them, it's almost the beginning of a run of very difficult games. Yeah. Because from Barcelona, they'll move to Arsenal and then the difficult games continue. And also, if you say you are the best team in the world and you beat PSG, people say it was a fluke. Not only did you beat PSG, but you beat PSG in 30 minutes, 3-0, and people believe it's a fluke, it was a 1-game wonder. Then you need to prove yourself against Barcelona. A lot of Chelsea fans called for Barcelona and they have it. And they've gotten it. So now it's for the players to prove it. And also I think I would love to see a few things happen in this game. For example, Barcelona have played heavily with this back line. I think this will be a game Chelsea will love to flirt to that back line a lot. I want to see how Moises Caicedo would fare. If Chelsea is going to play counter-attacking formation, how would the Chelsea players try and beat the Barcelona high line and try and beat an offside trap? That's something I also love to see. I love to see how, if Lamine Yamal is fit, how would he fare against Marco Correa? if Marcus Rashford will feature in that game, how will he play against Rhys James
or
Malo Gusto? Also, then I want to see the midfield battle. Barcelona have always waxed lyrical about Pedri. Frankie de Jong.
Yeah.
Chelsea also boast of Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo. So let's see.
Will Kopama play that game?
No. Kopama. For what we've heard so far, it's very much unlikely. For me, I was believing it was a stunt. Enzo Maresca was pulling, and then today by this time we'll see his name in the Champions League squad.
I don't think he will,
because the schools looks very fishy.
He had an accident as well. You never know.
It sounds.
You know, for these players, even if they get a pimple.
So for me, these are some of the battles I'm looking for. Also to see how Lewandowski fares against this Chelsea defenders who seem to concede almost every single game. It's just few games they've been able to get a clean sheet. And also for me, particularly for such a game, I would rather laugh that Chelsea go with former Barcelona striker McGill instead of
because you think he knows the team very well.
Not necessarily that, but even if you watch the game on Saturday against Burnley, Delap was in for like 60 minutes. Even though he created a few problems for the Burnley defense, realistically, it was when McGill came onto the pitch that even when it seemed like it was a ball that was going off the pitch, he would fight for the ball, and that's how come Chelsea got the second goal in the game. So I think if one, he knows the Barcelona team, but also because of his dynamic class and the hunger and the energy with which he helps the team. Also, it's a game I would love to see Willian Esteval also to get onto the pitch. There's a lot of talk about comparing him to Lamine Yamal, but obviously Lamine has been at this game on the European stage for longer than for him. Willian is now coming onto the European scene also, and so big games like this, he has to prove. He scored a very important goal against Liverpool, the winner. Scored in the Champions League in the last game as well, the opening goal as well. So those are some of the few matchups I would love to see. But all in all, we are looking for a game which will be pleasing to the eye, deliver those European crackers that we expect to see in this new format of the Champions League, and hopefully the best team wins.
All right, hopefully the best team wins. So that's a short preview of the UEFA Champions League game. Remember, Chelsea are 12 on the league table when it comes to the Champions League, whilst Barcelona are 11th. So 11th and 12th will be meeting. In other games too, Arsenal will play against Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich are on top of the Champions League table. Behind them is Arsenal, who have 12 points. And there will be some interesting fixtures that will be coming up this particular week. We'll bring that to you in our subsequent bulletin and in our subsequent shows. But before we go, let me just mention the games that will be played in the Champions League this week. Ajax will play against Benfica. Galatasaray will play against Union Saint-Gilloise. Slavia Prague will play against Atletico Club Bilbao. Bodo Glimt will play against Juventus. Borussia Dortmund will face Villarreal. Manchester City will play against Bayer Leverkusen. Olympic Marseille will play against Newcastle United. Napoli will welcome Karabakh. Copenhagen will play against Karat Almaty. Pafos will play against Monaco. Sporting CP will play against Club Brugge. Paris Saint-Germain will play against Tottenham Hotspur. It's a repeat of the Super Cup game in there. So we'll see how that particular one pans out. Olympiacos will play against Real Madrid. Liverpool at Anfield will play against PSV Eindhoven. Eintracht Frankfurt will play against Atlanta. Atletico Madrid at home welcome Inter Milan. There's another cracker game then. Arsenal will play against Bayern Munich. So this is how we end the replay, the second edition of the replay on ABC News Ghana. My name is James Ohinuba. I did this with Eugene Ofori. So to remember, every Mondays 2:30 p.m. we'll be here to review the weekend action that's happened during the weekend.